Hey guys, it's Leanne. Welcome to my YouTube channel if you're new here, and obviously if you're not new, welcome back and thank you so much for returning. Today's video is something I've not actually done before on my YouTube channel. So today's video is me doing this full face of makeup. As you can see what I've got on now, it was done using all e.l.f. Cosmetics makeup. e.l.f. Cosmetics is a drugstore brand for those who don't know, and e.l.f. Cosmetics is also cruelty free and vegan, which is important to me. I'm actually giving some products a second chance because some of the products I've tried in the past, including foundation from e.l.f, concealer from e.l.f, I've not been impressed with at all, whereas other products I've used are actually a first impression. Also, if you can please subscribe to my YouTube channel, show your support and give this video a thumbs up. Also leave me a comment in the comment section underneath with any feedback you have of this tutorial. Did you learn anything new? Is there anything else you'd like to see from my channel in future? Give me a heads up about what content you'd like to see, because I always try to respond. Well, not always try to, I always do respond to the people who actually comment on my videos. Anything that you'd like to see from this channel, then please let me know in the comment section down below and I will do my best to make it happen. With all that said, if you would like to see how to achieve this flawless, glowing, drugstore, cruelty-free and vegan makeup look, then please keep on watching. So the first product that I'm going to be going in with is the e.l.f. Instant Lift Brow Pencil. Now, I've used this before, but I've decided that I'm going to be using a different shade today. So this shade is the shade Neutral Brown. Now, I've used Deep Brown before, which is quite a dark, almost close to a black colour. So it does look dark on my brows. So I thought I'd just go to the next shade that I could find that seemed suitable, and that was the Neutral Brown. I'm going to start like I normally do, just by brushing up my own natural brow hairs. And then I'm just going to be drawing, very gently tracing out a line underneath where my natural brow hairs stop. But already we can see how much sleeker and smoother and more crisp and fresh this eyebrow looks compared to this eyebrow. And then I'm just doing very slight flicker motions and I'm just following my own natural eyebrow hair direction. And then I'm just going to brush this product through the brows, because that will allow me to see where I've left any gaps. And then when I come to the front of the brow, I'm going to angle the pencil like this, because my brow hairs and everyone's at the front grow up, so they grow vertical, whereas from this point here they sort of grow in this direction. Now I'm just going to be angling the pencil this way so that I can imitate brow hair strokes. And I would actually have to say that this colour, the Neutral Brown, is a much better shade for my eyebrows. It's a lot more similar to my own natural eyebrow hair colour than the Deep Brown. So I'm just going to do the other eyebrow, just the exact same routine, but I'm not going to talk through this one just for time's sake. So this pencil as well was only £3, and I genuinely feel that this pencil is just as good as my Fenty pencil or my NYX Cosmetics Micro Brow Pencil. So I would actually highly recommend this pencil, and I do actually plan on buying this pencil in all the other shades. So the next product I'm going to be going in with is the e.l.f. 16-Hour Camo Concealer, and this is in the shade Light Beige. Now I have actually used this before, and I've done a video comparing this e.l.f. concealer to the Hydrating Camo Concealer Satin Finish. I did prefer this one, but you'll have to go and check out the video to see the reasons why and see what happens in the video. But today I'm going to be using this one. I'm going to be using this to prime my eyelids. So I'm just going to work one eye at a time because this product does dry down really fast. So I'm just going to be buffing this all over the eye. And to do this, the brush I'm using is a Morphe M518 brush, which is just an eyeshadow brush, and I'm just using it to pat this base onto the eye. And as you can see here, it is actually giving my eyelid a good full coverage because my eyelids are actually quite veiny. So to carve out underneath the brow, I'm going to be going in with the Zoeva 144 brush, and I'm just going to be taking a little bit more of this concealer, and I'm just going to be placing a little bit of this from the applicator just onto my little plastic palette, as it's a bit easier for me to pick it up from this palette. So I'm just going to be carving out underneath the brows by placing the Zoeva 144 brush just flat against my brow bone and just tracing the line that I drew on with the e.l.f. brow lift pencil. And then I'm just going to be patting this second layer flat against the eyelid, and then I'm just going to be doing the same to the other eye now. And then to make sure that there are no brush hair strokes left in either eye base, I'm going to be going in with the Primark 101 HD Kabuki brush. So this is just a clean brush, and all I'm doing is just simply patting on top of this eye base just to make sure that there are no creases. Now, side note, I actually think that e.l.f. do an eyeshadow primer, but I just personally love P. Louise eyeshadow base, or I just prefer to use concealers, and I'm not going to be setting this concealer. Sometimes in the past I used to set any concealers so that they didn't crack or crease, but I now use the eyeshadow that I'm going to be using instead to set the eyeshadow primer. So yeah, that's just a little tip for anybody who doesn't really know much about eye base or eye primers. You can actually just use concealer if you don't want to invest in an eyeshadow primer. So that's what I'm doing for today. So for eyeshadows today, I've picked up the e.l.f. Bite Size Shadows. This is the Hot Jalapeno palette. Now, I've actually used this look before on my channel, and this is a brilliant dupe for the Fenty Beauty Trophy Wife Highlight. So I've used this one before, and I've also picked up Pumpkin Pie. Very neutral, natural, everyday palette, browns and golds. Another palette that I picked up was the Truffles palette. This palette is a little bit different because it's got a black, and it's also got like a silver glitter, which is very nice. I've used this palette once before, not on my YouTube channel, but just when I was having a play around with it. So yeah, this one's Truffles, this one's Hot Jalapeno, and this one's Pumpkin Pie. So I think today I'm actually going to be using a combination of all three palettes, so we can really get to see what the pigment's like, whether the palettes work well together. Also, these palettes were just £3. Now, they do actually fit in the palm of your hand, so they are only very small. But when I did actually have a little play around with the palettes, the pigment is amazing. So some of the shadows in Pumpkin Pie and some of the shadows in Truffles. So I'm more talking about like the brown shades here. So these are very good dupes for the Fenty Beauty No. 3 Snap Shadows palette in deep neutrals. And that was in terms of texture as well and consistency. So I'm just going to pat over this eyeshadow base one more time. However, I just need to add that there actually are not any creases. This concealer as an eyeshadow base is perfect. It's literally not creasing at all. So the first Bite Size eyeshadow palette I'm going to be going in with is Truffles, and I'm going to be taking this brown shade on a Zoeva 227 Luxe Soft Definer brush, and I think I'm going to be going for a little bit of a halo spotlight eye. So I'm going to start by just packing this colour down flat on the outer corner. Oh, this is quite a cool toned brown. Hopefully you can see how much pigment this colour gives off. So already it's given me quite a nice bit of pigment. So I'm just going to take this colour higher than my natural crease so that when my eyes open you can actually see this colour. And then I'm just going to be putting the brush flat against my brow bone, and I'm just going to be very gently just buffing these edges away just so that they look nice and smooth and blended. I'm going to be doing a very rounded smoky eye today, so I'm just going to be tracing a little C shape just as you can see me doing here, as that will give a nice circular shape. So I'm taking that same colour again, and I'm just going to be packing this now onto the inner corner of the eye, and this is still with the same brush. So I'm going to be leaving a space in the middle, a negative space in the middle. I'm going to be leaving the space in the middle, but I am going to be joining the top of these shadows. Obviously this just looks like a big round circle, which is not really the look I was going for. So to blend these edges away and to fluff them up into the brow bone, I'm going to be taking now the Morphe M441 brush, and I'm going to be going in to the Pumpkin Pie Bite Size eyeshadow palette, and I'm going to be taking this brown now, as this is a lot more of a warmer toned brown. I'm just taking that colour straight up to the brow bone. And then as we can see here on the outer corner, this is a little bit darker than the inner corner. So I'm going to be going back in with the first shade I used from the Truffles palette, which was, I think, this shade, yeah. And again, I'm just going to be blending these edges just by having the brush flat against my brow bone and just very, very gently tickling over these edges now. Now I'm going to be going in with a smaller brush. So this is the Morphe Jeffree Star JS10 brush, and I'm actually going to be going in with the black shadow from the Truffles palette, and this is just to deepen up the outer and inner corner of this halo eye. And I've used a smaller brush because I don't want this black to be going all up past the crease. I just want to keep it focused more closer to the crease, which is easier when using a smaller brush. And these shadows are so pigmented, so far I would definitely recommend these palettes, and for £3, like, how amazing is that for price? And then I'm just going to be taking a clean brush now. So this is the Zoeva 224 Luxe Defined Crease. It's just a little bit of a smaller brush, and I'm just going to be using that just to blend this black shadow up into the first two browns that I've used. And again, I'm just blending the outer corner and the inner corner. And as you can see, that has just helped to deepen up this look. Now I'm applying a little bit more black on the inner corner because for some reason the outer corner is deepening up a lot easier than the inner corner. Same again with that Zoeva brush. And then I am just going to very gently join the two black colours across the middle, just like so. And then I'm going to be going in with the first brush that I used, and this is just to tickle the edges of this black, just to make it a smoother transition and to make it look like it blends into the brown a little bit more. So again, I'm just using windscreen wiper motions, being very gentle with this, as we don't want to blend everything away. We don't want to blend all the work we've just done away. We just want to make sure that it blends enough to mean that there's no harsh lines. I've decided that for the middle, maybe I might actually just stick to the Pumpkin Pie palette and maybe use a mixture of these two. But first, I'm actually going to apply a little bit more black, just because it can go a little bit grey. I'm not sure if this is showing up on camera, but it can go a little bit grey and a little bit muddy when trying to blend, so I want to keep that true black. So I'm just making sure that it looks dark enough on the inner and outer corner. And then again, I'm going to be going back in with the Zoeva 224, and I'm just going to be blending these black edges. And then again, I'm just tracing that C shape out on the outer corner of the eye so that this does look like a rounded smoke. Again, going back in with the first brush, and I'm just tickling these edges now. I'm going to be going in with the 234 Zoeva Luxe Smoky Shader. So I'm going to be applying this shimmer first. See how this looks? I'm just applying this where I've left that blank negative space in the centre. Okay, so that actually looks quite nice already. It's quite pigmented. And using a flat brush like this is similar to using a finger, whereas if I used a fluffy brush, it'd be really hard for me to get the colour to actually stick to the eye. But because I'm using a flat brush, it really does make it a lot easier for the pigment to stick down. So what I'm going to be doing now is just going back in with a bit more of the black, and I'm just going to be pressing the black very slightly just over the edges of this shimmer, and that's just to make it blend more. Look a bit more natural rather than have just one big gap in the centre and like a line. We want it to look a little bit more blended. To give the eye a bit of dimension, if we had just a straight line that wouldn't work. We want it to look like a bit curved, so by pressing the black just on the edges, that helps to blend the shimmer more and make it just look more natural and give the eye a bit more depth. On top of that shimmer shadow that I used, so on top of this one, I'm going to be going in with this one now, but I'm going to be using a different brush. I'm now going to be going in with the Morphe Jeffree Star JS11 brush. Again, it's a flat brush, so it's going to be really useful for just packing down pigment. So I'm just going to go in now and pack this just on top. And as you can see, that pigment just is a little bit more intense than the first one, but it might be because I've added it on top of the first one actually. But yeah, that's a nice combination to have both pigments just pressed on top of each other, and it really does make the centre of the eye just pop, and it gives the illusion that the eye is a little bit bigger than it is. Right, I think what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be doing the same what I've done to the upper lid to the bottom lid, not bottom lid, to the lower lash line. So I'm going to be having dark on the inner and outer corner, and I'm going to be having a pop of colour. I'm just taking the same black brush, the same black shadow, and I'm just pressing this onto the waterline, and it really is a nice matte black, this. I'm just using the black for the inner and outer corner of the waterline. Just taking a synthetic brush, so I'm not sure what brand this is from, but it's just a little flat brush. So I'm going in with the first shimmer, and I'm just going to be placing this in the centre of my waterline. And then I'm going to be going on top with the second shimmer. Now I've just noticed here that this is not looking very blended, so I'm just taking the first brush again, and I'm just going to be dusting over these edges in a circular shape, so in a C shape. And then I'm also going to be going back in with the Zoeva 224, which is the brush that I had the black on, and I'm just going to be joining the bottom waterline to the top outer corner, and that will just make it all look like it's joined together nicely. Now, as a last finishing touch, is I'm going to be going in with the Morphe Jeffree Star JS13 brush, and I'm just going to be taking from the Truffles Bite Size eyeshadow palette, I'm going to be taking this brown, and I'm just going to be running this just underneath all of these colours now. I'm just going to continue with the other eye now, and then I'll check back in. The first product for the skin that I'm going to be going in with is a favourite of mine, which is the e.l.f. Poreless Putty Primer. This is going to be used to fill in my pores and to smooth out any imperfections, and I'm just applying it mostly to the areas where I actually know that pores seem to show through. Mostly on the cheek area for me, a little bit on the forehead. I'm going to put a little bit on the nose as well, and around the nose especially, because foundation sometimes gathers around the nose, and I'm really working this into the skin. Now, if you've actually watched my review of the e.l.f. Flawless Satin Foundation, you'll know that I'm actually not a fan of this foundation and I wouldn't recommend it. But because today is a full face of e.l.f. makeup, I'm going to be giving it a second try. But I've decided that I'm actually going to be setting the primer with translucent powder. Well, not translucent powder, it's loose baking powder. I'm actually going to be using this e.l.f. Halo Glow setting powder in the shade Light, but I'm going to be using it the way I would use a translucent powder. I'm just going to be pressing it all into the skin to set that primer and to make sure that my pores stay filled. And I'm also doing this because I didn't actually like this foundation I've thought that if I use an e.l.f. primer, it should logically work a little bit better on the skin. And also, by adding the powder underneath, this can sometimes give a more flawless effect and can make makeup last longer. So that's why I'm doing it, as well as it actually locks primer into pores, so it actually helps fill in pores even more. I'm going to be doing that today, and I'm actually just going to be, I might just use a brush to apply this. So I'm just taking the Peaches and Creams PC04 brush. Now I know that e.l.f. do brushes, but I have not actually invested in any of their brushes, so I'm just going to be using my regular brushes that I would normally use. So I'm just going to be putting a layer of this all over the skin. And this powder does not actually smell like anything. There's no smell to this powder. So it's really good because I can actually go around the nose without wanting to sneeze or being like having your breath taken away because the smell is that strong. With this powder, it's actually not. So I'm just going to do a little bit on the forehead. And I'm just pressing this into the skin. I'm actually going to be going back in to this powder, and I'm just going to be putting a little bit of this all over the sponge. Well, all over the little, what are these called? Powder puff. So I'm actually just going to be going over the skin once more, as I find using a powder puff is the best way to actually, I've actually found that a powder puff is probably the best way to make sure that powder is pressed into the skin. So that's why I'm going over with a powder puff. And this powder puff is from the B range from Superdrug, if anyone is interested. So I'm going to be going in with foundation now. Like I said before, if you did actually watch my review of the e.l.f. Flawless Satin Foundation in the shade Buff, then you would know that I'm not a fan of this foundation at all. I'm not really looking forward to using it now, but again, I'm going to anyway because this is a full face of e.l.f. makeup. But if you watched it, you'd see that it actually did apply better with a beauty sponge than a brush. But I'm going to give it another try today, and I'm going to be applying it with the Peaches and Creams brush. So this is my regular go-to foundation. So I'm just going to be putting about 4 pumps onto my little plastic palette, as that helps to reduce waste. As if I put it on my hand, inevitably my skin will soak some of the product up, but if I put it onto a plastic palette, I can actually get the most product from it without the plastic soaking it up. So I'm actually just going to be dotting this onto the skin, and I really did not like this foundation at all last time. So let's hope that today is a little bit better. Now, something that I didn't notice last time, but I'm noticing now, is that this e.l.f. foundation actually smells really nice. So I'm just going to be pressing this into the skin. Okay, so my second impression of this foundation is that so far I'm definitely preferring the e.l.f. foundation when used with the Poreless Putty Primer. And also, I have actually set the Poreless Putty Primer in place using the e.l.f. Halo Glow setting powder, as you're seeing. So far doing these 2 steps that I didn't do in my previous video is making this foundation go on very flawless. However, it's definitely not full coverage yet anyway, but it's looking a lot more buildable than in my previous video. So I'm just going to continue applying and see if we can work some magic. I've definitely still got redness around the lip area and around the nose area. So let's see if we can actually build this to a full coverage. Last time I definitely wasn't able to, and last time it wouldn't even stick to the chin or the nose, even upon application. And then when I did check in a few hours later, it was bad. There's literally not one bit of product on the nose or the chin. So I'm actually going to be going in with the Morphe Beauty Sponge now, and I'm just going to be going over to make sure that there are no brush hair strokes. Okay, so this technique actually works very well. By going over with the brush first and then with a beauty sponge, this works quite well. A little bit more on the nose just to try and cover up some of my freckles. And this is a damp beauty sponge, by the way, guys. Now, normally as well, using a brush to apply foundation will give a more full coverage. But in my review of this foundation, that just weren't the case with a brush. It was so hard to work with this foundation. But even just going in with a beauty blender is actually, seems to be working out quite nice and giving me quite a good bit of coverage. So it's almost like this is a completely different foundation to the first foundation I tried. But maybe that just goes to show that using different techniques, like using the setting powder underneath and a different primer, can really affect a foundation's performance. There's a little lesson for me and hopefully for you as well. So now what I've decided to do, because last time this foundation was just awful, I've decided that I'm actually going to be using the e.l.f. Halo Glow setting powder in light just to set all over the face. And this is just for my own peace of mind, because last time the foundation didn't last well at all throughout the day. So because I want this to look super flawless and I actually want it to last, I'm actually just going to go back in again with that Peaches and Creams brush. So that was the Peaches and Creams 04 brush, and I'm just going to be picking some up and I'm just going to be pressing this over the skin, which is a really good tip if you need your makeup to last all day. You can just take a loose setting powder like I'm doing and just literally press it over your foundation. It won't look cakey, it will just look flawless, but it will mattify the foundation. So if you're actually using a dewy foundation, then this step will actually mattify the foundation. But I'm okay with that. I don't mind a matte foundation, as I normally make it dewy with the products like blush and highlight. I'm going to be going in now with the e.l.f. 16-hour Camo Concealer in the shade Light Beige. For me, this was another product that the first time I used it just did not go well at all. I'm just going to be giving this product another try, and I'm not going to be using that much, as when I used it I did find it so hard to actually blend. So I'm going to be using a brush to blend this today, and this is just a little Real Technique setting brush. Just going to be pressing this concealer, but again it does dry really quick. I'm even finding that now it's hard to move this product, but I'm just buffing it into that waterline. So I'm finding straight away that this product works best when applied with a brush. However, I am actually going to go in with my Morphe Beauty Sponge and just press over this product just to make it as seamless as possible. So to set this product, I'm going to be going back in with the e.l.f. Halo Glow setting powder, and I'm going to be using a Real Techniques multitask cheek brush. And as always, my setting technique is to dip the brush into the setting powder, tap off all of the excess so there's only a little bit of product on the brush, and then just to gently press this powder on top of the concealer. And I'm working one eye at a time because this product really does dry down very fast. So I always do this step twice. So I'm going to be going back in again now and repeating the same process. So I'm just going to be doing the other eye now. And now this is actually looking quite flawless and full coverage. I'm actually quite impressed now with this concealer, even though on first impressions I absolutely was not in love with this concealer. But now I'm actually quite liking it, and maybe I understand now what all the hype was about. So again, I'm just going to be buffing this concealer into the waterline, pressing over with my Morphe sponge. This sponge is so soft as well. I actually really love this sponge. So I've not actually tried any e.l.f. bronzers, but I did manage to pick up this bronzer. Okay, so this bronzer I'm assuming is just called the Warm bronzer. There's not actually a name or a colour, it just says bronzer warm. So let's open this up. This was £5 as well, this bronzer, which is quite good value. as it looks like a luminous bronzer. It's got like the four colours and 3 of them seem luminous. This one seems matte, but we'll see. Okay, so this is what it looks like. Oh, that actually looks quite sleek and classy. Nice packaging. So this is the bronzer, and I'm so impressed because it's actually got a mirror. Oh, that's obviously perfect for on the go. So to bronze / contour, I'm going to be going in with the Peaches and Creams PC 25 brush, and I'm just going to be taking a mixture of these shades, tapping off any excess, and I'm just going to be bronzing the skin. Okay, so first impressions of this bronzer is that it does seem to be a nice luminous bronzer. It's not a very dark bronzer when you first put it on, but you can build it up. So this would actually be quite good for people who enjoy natural makeup, but still want to look contoured and glam. So yeah, it gives a little bit of a glow to the skin. And yeah, it's quite a good product for £5. I am actually impressed. So it definitely gives a more glowy effect, as you can see here. I've put a little bit on the forehead and this looks quite glowy now. I'm actually going to be taking this shade now, so the darker shade, and I'm only going to be dipping into this, and I'm actually just going to be using this towards the hairline / the back of the cheekbone, as that makes contour look a little bit more natural when you have the darkest concentration of colour more towards the ear. This product, because it does have that darker colour, it actually allows you to do that. So it's actually perfect for contour. I am so impressed with this product for £5. The packaging's beautiful, it's got a mirror, and the actual colour is perfect, and I love how it makes the skin look. It really does give a nice glow to the skin. I'm so happy that I actually picked this bronzer up. This is an absolute first for me on my channel and in life, I think, anyway. Like, I do not use cream blush. That's just not my thing. I just like powder blush. I just don't know why. I just never think that it ever lasts. There's something about it that just puts me off. I did actually manage to pick up the e.l.f. monochromatic multi-stick in the shade Dazzling Peony. Now, I literally don't even know how to apply this. Like, do people use fingers for cream blush? Like, do we use a brush? It's quite small, and this was £4.50, by the way. Okay, so it's not a lot of product. Now, it also says that this can be used on the eyes, lips and cheeks and blend with a brush or fingertips. So I'm going to be going in with a Real Techniques buff and brush, and I'm just going to be taking a little bit of this from the top, as obviously I don't want to go with my fingertips and ruin the rest of my face, which I'm impressed with. Okay, so that gives quite a nice hint of colour. Okay, I quite like that. So I'm going to do the other cheek, but also I actually watched an Amanda Ensing makeup hacks video on YouTube, and she set cream blush with translucent powder, or she said that that's a trick that she does. So I'm actually going to be trying the same today, as I'd feel a lot more comfortable going out with cream blush on as long as I knew I could set it. Okay, I'm just going to be doing a little bit more now. But yeah, it does give a really healthy glow. And cream blushes, in my opinion, even though I've never used them, I actually do like when I see them on people. They actually give a look of a glow from within. So I'm going to be going back in again with my e.l.f. Halo Glow Setting Powder. And I'm just going to be using the Peaches and Creams PC04 brush again, just to do a light little layer just on top of this blush. Now, this is the first time trying cream blush and trying this technique of using a loose powder to keep the blush in place. Does anyone else use this tip, or is it just me who's only ever actually like heard of this, or is this like a thing? Do people know about this already? But to me it was mind-blowing, and it made me think, is that how people use cream blush and actually make it last all day? So I'm gonna try this for myself today and see how it goes. So to highlight the Cupid's bow and above the cheekbones, I'm actually going to be using the e.l.f. bronzer because I didn't actually pick up any highlight. So I'm just going to be using a Morphe Jeffree Star JS6 brush, as I do really believe that like eyeshadow brushes are brilliant for highlighting. Now from this bronzer palette, I'm just using these 3 shades, a mixture of these 3 shades. Obviously the brown colour is a real contour shade, so I'm not using that. Okay, so it's actually quite a nice highlight. It's not blinding or anything, but obviously it's not supposed to be a highlight, so I'm just making the best of it really. But it still gives a little bit of a slight glow to the skin. So I actually did manage to pick up an e.l.f. lipstick, which is in clear packaging, which I think is just so cool. And obviously it'll be so easy to find. If you have a lot of these, you'd know which shade you were looking for in your makeup bag. This is just a satin lipstick, and this is in the shade Cream. I also picked up e.l.f. lip lacquer, and this is in the shade Mauve Glitz. So I'm going to be pairing these two together. But as far as I'm aware, e.l.f. don't actually have any lip liners. I could be wrong, please correct me if I'm wrong, but I didn't see any in store. So I'm going to be going in with a favourite lip liner of mine. So I'm just going in with a nude pencil, because obviously this will complement the e.l.f. products that I've picked up. So yeah, I'm going to be going in now with the e.l.f. Satin Cream. So this is the packaging that I was talking about before. How unique. Like, I've not actually seen a lipstick with clear packaging before. So it's just a push-up tube. So it looks like a really nice shade, and a shade that I would normally go for. So the formula actually feels very creamy, but I can imagine it to be quite long lasting. I actually love this colour. The lipstick was only £3, and how gorgeous is that colour, and they actually did have quite a lot of other colours. Now I'm just going to go on top with the e.l.f. lip lacquer in the shade Mauve Glitz, and if I remember rightly, this was also £3. And look how shiny this is. Now, last but not least, I do actually want to do some inner corner highlight. So I'm going to be using this shade from the Hot Jalapeno palette. To apply this, I'm going to be using the Zoeva 230 Luxe Pencil Brush. Now, that's just to give a nice pop of colour. And as you can see, it's so vibrant. And it really does make this look just pop. So can we just talk about some of the products in this video, because I think there's not one thing that I would not recommend. I am so impressed with everything I have tried today, and I'm so happy that I actually done this tutorial, because I've actually fallen in love with some of the products that were so ready for the full face of makeup I regret buying bin. I started out at the beginning of this tutorial not loving this foundation, and now I'm looking in the camera and in real life it just looks so flawless, and I'd actually say that it does look pretty full coverage. So I'm so impressed that I tried this again. Obviously I tried a different technique which, you know, works very well. I've also fell in love with the e.l.f. 16 Hour Camo Concealer, and still wouldn't say that this is full coverage. I don't believe that this concealer is full coverage. I am very impressed that it is a high coverage. The e.l.f. lipstick is amazing. I love that shade, and for £3 the formula feels so smooth and so creamy, but I can imagine that it's going to be long lasting. It felt quite tacky as well, so I can imagine that it's going to be quite a long lasting formula. So I definitely recommend that as well. The little e.l.f. monochromatic multi-stick, I actually loved how glowy it made the skin look. It weren't too pigmented, it was just the right shade for my skin tone and the look that I go for, which I don't like too much of a harsh blush. I just like it to be quite natural but still give you a nice flush. And I think it's like, even though it is small, it's probably perfect for fitting in your makeup bag. But the bronzer, I am so impressed with this. I'm actually going to go back to Superdrug and see if I can actually purchase this in a deeper tone, because obviously as much as it's glowy and flawless, I actually do like a bit more of a full contoured look. So even though this is just perfect for every day, and I actually could use this for a night out makeup as well, I'd actually like the brown, I'd actually like the contour shade to be a little bit deeper, but I would definitely recommend this. You're seeing how dewy it applied to the skin, and it was very smooth to blend. It was easy to blend, it didn't go on patchy or anything or muddy. The tones in it were just perfect, so definitely recommend that as well. The eyeshadows, they are fantastic. I've managed to use all three, and I actually do love the colour schemes, and I definitely recommend those for £3. Thank you so much for watching my full face makeup tag of e.l.f. Cosmetics cruelty free and vegan makeup. If you have any comments or any questions, please leave me a comment down below. I hope that you enjoyed my video, learned something new, and yes, I will see you in the next tutorial. Don't forget to subscribe, give this video a thumbs up if you liked it, to let me know whether you would like to see more content like this, more full face from other brands. If you have any other brands to recommend for me to do a full face on, then please just let me know. Thank you so much for watching, guys. I'll see you in the next tutorial.